between Algeria and Kenya. And Nicaragua has asked the International Court of Justice to call on Germany to stop providing weapons to the Israeli occupation, which relentlessly continues its genocidal attack against the Gaza Strip since October 7th. And as the UN Security Council is meeting today to examine Palestine's request for the UN full membership, the Israeli occupation pursues its bombardments of Gaza, killing and wounding scores of people. And those were the major developments. Now the Full News edition. Good afternoon. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has expressed satisfaction at the efforts made to increase the rate of data digitization in several sectors, calling for more interactivity and synergy between ministerial departments, particularly those related to economy. Mariam Barshi has more.
During a Council of the Ministers meeting, the President called for more efforts to be made to boost digitization. Regarding the draft bill on endowments, the President instructed the government to postpone the bill in order to deepen and enrich its study and according to the new management rules. As for the progress of the development program of renewable energies, President Tebboune underlined the importance of developing the renewable energy sectors while taking into account the adequate mechanisms and technical means to achieve a well-studied energy transition that preserves the highest interests of the state. Meanwhile, the President ordered the drafting of specifications for the launch of mounting and assembly project of smartphones in Algeria. The President insisted on encouraging investment in the smartphone sector through the integration of young skilled people with a view to developing their experience and expertise through partnerships with operators activating in the national market and also with foreigners. Meanwhile, the President ordered the drafting of specifications relating to the rehabilitations of the Green Dam and the creation of reforestation and irrigation companies run by young people. He also ordered the inclusion of dune fields affected by desertification in the Green Dam project.
And the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community abroad, Ahmed Attaf, is paying an official visit to Nairobi, Kenya, under the instructions of the President of the Republic. The visit is part of efforts aimed at strengthening relations of cooperation and historic friendship between Algeria and Kenya. It is also aimed at reinforcing the links of consultation and coordination on regional and international developments in line with the two countries' constant attachment to the objectives of African Union and the joint African action in order to face up to the challenges which the countries and the people of the continent are confronted to. And in Cairo, the MP of the People National Assembly and the Speaker of the Commission of External Relations of the Arab Observatory for Human Rights, Mr. Ali Jalouli, took part in the 11th meeting of the observatory recently held in Egypt. The meeting, presided over by the Speaker of the Arab Parliament, focused on the blatant and major violence and violation of human rights carried out by the Israeli occupation in Gaza. On the occasion, the observatory presented a report containing evidence of Israeli actions carried out in the besieged enclave in a violation of international law. The report also highlighted the use of hunger as a weapon of war by the Israeli forces, contributing to the worsening of people's food security, forbidding the entry of food and humanitarian aid, as well as targeting civilians during the aid delivery while hindering the work of human rights and relief organizations. And the night of doubt for the observation of the lunar crescent, indicating the first of Shawwal and the end of the month of Ramadan, will take place today evening at Dar al-Imam here in Algiers. The National Mosaitin Committee of the Ministry of Religious Affairs will meet today evening to inform citizens whether the first day of Eid al-Fitr will be tomorrow, Tuesday or Wednesday. The Minister of Religious Affairs, Youssef Ben Mahdi, will chair a conference at 5:30 p.m. at Dar al-Imam on the occasion of the Night of Doubt, to be aired by Algerian media. To the Middle East now, and as the UN Security Council is meeting today to examine Palestine UN full membership, the Israeli occupation has pursued its bombardments of the Gaza Strip. Palestinian sources said over 30 people were killed and scores of others wounded in airstrikes launched by the Israeli occupation against various parts of the territory, including the central region of Nusayrat. According to UNRWA, over 1.7 million Palestinians were forced to flee their homes since the Israeli occupation forces launched their attacks on Gaza last October. This came as the World Food Programme once again warned that the population of Gaza was in need of aid more than ever before as famine threatens the northern part of the enclave. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council is holding consultations behind closed doors to examine Palestine's UN full membership request. Palestine requested that its application for full membership made on September 23, 2011, and which has been constantly backed by Algeria, be once again examined by the UN Security Council. Let's recall that the admission of new members is decided by the UN General Assembly on recommendation of the Security Council. And Nicaragua has asked the International Court of Justice to call on Germany to stop providing weapons to the Israeli occupation, which relentlessly continues its genocidal attack against the Gaza Strip since October 7th. Majid Mila tells us more.
Nicaragua's lawyer said before the International Court of Justice that Germany was and is fully aware of the risks of the weapons it supplied and keeps supplying to the Israeli occupation to keep committing genocide against the Palestinian people. Nicaragua's representative said it is extremely urgent that Germany finally suspends aid and assistance to the Israeli occupation as these weapons are used against the Palestinians. Today's hearing before the International Tribunal comes amid persistent calls on countries to stop providing weapons to the Israeli occupation, which keeps using them in its genocide in Gaza. Last Friday, the International Court of Justice itself called on countries to stop selling or shipping weapons to the Israeli occupation. Earlier, Nicaragua said that Germany is pathetic to supply aid to Palestinians while providing arms to the Israeli occupation. Germany is facing charges at the top United Nations Court for facilitating the genocide committed against Palestinians in Gaza in coordination with its military and political ally with the Israeli occupation. Nicaragua presented its case before the International Court of Justice today, Monday, demanding that judges impose emergency measures to stop Berlin from providing the Israeli occupations with weapons and other assistance.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, and the United Nations has called for an end to the violence which has marked the Lebanese border with the Israeli occupation for 6 months, highlighting fears of an escalation and asking to give a chance to diplomacy. Majid Mila again.
The United Nations Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Giona Oronika, and the head of the interim force of the United Nations in Lebanon, UNIFIL, Aroldo Lotharo, deplored that the exchanges of fire on both sides of the Blue Line have continued unabated for 6 months. In a joint statement, exchanges of fire have opposed the Israeli army and the Lebanese Hezbollah movement since the day after the war in the Gaza Strip between Israeli and Hamas on October 7, who claimed to support the Palestinian Islamist movement. The officials went on saying the violence and suffering have lasted too long, they must stop, and urgently calling on all parties to use all means to avoid an additional escalation as long as there is room for diplomacy.
And the World Food Programme Executive Director has called on the world not to forget the war-ravaged Sudan and other countries which are brink of famine. She was quoted by media saying that she hopes the world won't lose track of these countries that desperately need it. She went on saying that right now Gaza is getting all the attention, and that's understandable, but she stressed Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, Yemen and Haiti must not be forgotten. She added that these are parts of the world that are totally on the verge of an even bigger food crisis, which is already happening right now, referring specifically to Sudan. And in Mozambique, at least 96 people have drowned after their ship sunk near the northern Nampula province. Local sources affirmed that the fishing boat was carrying 130 people, including several children. 11 survivors were found, but those missing remain unknown. The Secretary of State of Nampula province stressed that the boat was overloaded and unsuitable to transport passengers. He added that several panicked families had rushed to the boat following rumors of a cholera epidemic. You still listen to Radio Adria International, and millions of people across North America will get a chance to experience a special natural event today, Monday, when a total solar eclipse will be visible from parts of Mexico, the United States, and Canada. The U.S. NASA Space Agency explained that the total eclipse, which occurs when the moon completely blocks out the sun, will darken skies for a few minutes as if it were dawn or dusk. It will be visible from 185 kilometers wide band that stretches from the western coast of Mexico through the U.S. and up to Canada's easternmost province of Newfoundland and Labrador, known as the Path of Totality. NASA says on its website people along the Path of Totality will see the sun's corona or outer atmosphere, which is usually obscured by the bright face of the sun. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, 14 hours 42 minutes Algiers time, and the headlines. Foreign Minister Ahmad Attaf is on an official visit to Nairobi, Kenya, as part of efforts aimed at strengthening cooperation relations between Algeria and Kenya. And Nicaragua has asked the International Court of Justice to call on Germany to stop providing weapons to the Israeli occupation, which relentlessly continues the genocidal attack against the Gaza Strip since October 7th. And as the UN Security Council is meeting today to examine Palestine's request for the UN full membership, the Israeli occupation pursues its bombardments of Gaza, killing and wounding scores of people. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, 14 hours 42 minutes Algiers time, and that's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to our economic program compiled and presented by Said Bouazi.
Hello and welcome to our weekly program devoted to Algerian economic news. First in the news, the Minister of Energy and Mines Mohamed Arkab has taken part in the proceedings of the 53rd meeting of the Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee, GMMC, held via video conference, the ministry said in a statement. During this meeting, the ministers discussed the current situation of the world oil market and its short-term prospects. The members of the committee also underlined the compliance with OPEC plus countries' production limitation commitments for January and February 2024, the same source said. The Minister of Energy and Mines Mohamed Arkab has said that his sector was continuing its efforts to connect all the country's regions to the electricity and gas networks, including homes, industrial zones and farms. At a plenary session devoted to oral questions at the National People's Assembly, APN, Mohamed Arkab assured that in accordance with the instructions of the President of the Republic, we will not leave a single home without electricity throughout the national territory. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has announced in a press release that the General Census of Agriculture will begin on 19th May and run until 17th July 2024. This date was set during the proceedings of the 5th meeting of the National Commission for the General Census of Agriculture, chaired by the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Youssef Sherfa, and devoted to the final preparations before the launch of the agricultural census, added the press release. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Youssef Sherfa, has said in Ain Difla that the General Agricultural Census is an opportunity to identify national capacities and determine the needs of the sector so as to benefit farmers and the national economy. The General Agricultural Census is of great importance in identifying the sector's capacities and shortcomings and in drawing up development programs based on accurate and meticulous data, said Youssef Sherfa in a statement to the press on the sidelines of a working visit to the province. In more Algerian economic news, the Minister of Trade and Export Promotion Tayyip Zitouni has said in Tizi Ouzou during a working visit to the province that investment in large-scale retail outlets helps to regulate the national market in terms of product availability and price stability. The minister, who visited a number of retail outlets, including the privately owned Tizi Ouzou wholesale market and the local market opened by the local authorities for the month of Ramadan, said that the creation of large retail outlets, distribution platforms and central purchasing units will help keep prices under control. The need to step up efforts to develop a financial culture in Algeria has been underlined in Algiers by several players in the country's financial sector with the aim of boosting financial inclusion. At the annual meeting for the collective iftar organized by the Association of Graduates of the Arab Maghreb Development Finance Institute, IFIDAS, after the opening of the debate by the association's president Ahmed Haftari, a number of players in Algeria's financial sector put forward proposals for working effectively to develop financial literacy among the country's citizens. A new application dedicated to the preparation of the state budget has been presented in Algiers at a working meeting chaired by the Minister of Finance, Laziz Faid, in the presence of executives from the General Budget Directorate, according to a press release from the Ministry of Finance. This new application, IADA, dedicated to the preparation of the state budget in accordance with the provisions of the Organic Law on Finance 1815, aims to modernize and improve the process of preparing the state budget. The application comprises three main modules: budget requests, budget proposals, and budget documents and volume. And to wind up our program, the national airline company Air Algérie has achieved record sales of tickets for international flights to Algeria scheduled during the Ramadan and Eid periods, with almost 48,000 tickets sold. Air Algérie managed to sell 47,791 tickets for flights scheduled between 10th March and 13th April during the period from 29 January to 24th March, according to a press release issued by the company. This represents an exceptional increase over the year, with around 17,000 more tickets sold compared with the same period last year, when sales totaled 31,143. And with this we come to the end of our weekly program devoted to Algerian economic news. Take care and bye-bye for now.
14 hours, 48 minutes Algiers time. You still listen to Radio Algeria International, and that was our economic program compiled and presented by Saïd Bougazi. Now I invite you to listen to a cultural program devoted to Ramadan, and I'll leave you now to be with you again tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Algiers time for a fresh news edition. Goodbye.